Forgot to tell you, there's 5 Sundays this month. I forgot to tell you, you could. Okay. I always forget to ask the person, is that going to work? So anyway, we're in agreement, and it's all good. We set our intentions for a beautiful day, wonderful day. I posted yesterday that quote, every thought we think is preparing our future, is creating our future. So I know today's going to be a good day because I really looked forward to seeing you, and glad to have Corey with us, Francis' son, and I feel like I knew him already, but glad he's here. Glad you're all here. So now that we're in agreement, please remain standing. We'll officially get started. There.
Good morning, and welcome to Metron. Metron is measure or sphere of influence, and we want to help you find your Metron through motivation, enlightenment, transcendence, renewal, outreach, and networking. Today is your day to find your Metron, and we hope you enjoy the service.
Hello, hello. Good morning. Bonjour. Welcome. Welcome to Metron. So glad you're here. Those of you that are just now logging on, we welcome you wherever you are in the universe. It is July in the year of our Lord 2017. When I was a kid, I always thought after we passed 2000, we'd be like the Jetsons, like we'd be floating around in those spaceships and wearing bubbles on our head. But in a lot of ways, we're actually more advanced because, especially with the advent of cell phones and smartphones and computers. But it's just amazing how time is moving. And like I said, half the year is gone, and we're ready for a better second half. It always just gets better and better. We've already set our intentions in agreement today, and our artist of the month is somebody who's really been a part of us for some time now, and I never forget when we had the Church of the Now Midtown. Once we left Biltmore House and moved to the Virginia Highland Church, Eddie came every Thursday night for, I don't know, a couple of years, I guess, and was just faithful. Was it 3 years? but who's counting? And that was just such a huge blessing that he was faithful in that way. And I liked him as soon as I met him and felt like I'd known him all my life. I guess in some dimension we did. And in some ways our lives have taken similar parallel journeys. And so there's a lot of unspoken understanding that we have that we don't even really have to talk about because we already know. But I always love to hear him sing. I always love his folksy style when he shares anecdotes. I love when he tells stories about his Pentecostal aunts sitting out in the front yard in Cabbagetown singing. I feel like I know him. I love those stories. He reminds me, I've said this first time I ever heard him, he reminds me of the way Andy Griffith used to tell a story that would really sort of draw you in and make you feel a part of it. And so anyway, I'm just always glad that he can be with us. And he kind of keeps a low profile these days. So last week I texted him. I said, I wish Jesus would tell you to be my artist of the month next month. And somehow God moved. God got a hold of his heart. I said, you better stop running from God and get in that theater and let your light shine. Would you please welcome the one, the only Eddie Williams Sellers. Oh, that's good. Look at you up on the screen in this picture show house.
Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, everybody. Happy 4th of July weekend. It's kind of nice, isn't it? And then it falls on a Tuesday, so most people's off Monday, too, so it's kind of like 4 days off. I know City of Atlanta's closed Monday. Anyhow, let me get my guitar. Get set up here. It's kind of odd that when you do this every week like Jim does, it's just so easy and flows, and when you don't do it that often, you kind of...
It ain't that easy.
I kind of like to absorb the energy and kind of, I'm too old to be nervous, But, there's some good things about being in your 60s. I want to make sure that don't go. I want to sing kind of 3 short songs this morning. And then on maybe the last one, I'll talk a little bit. Let me turn this down. I like it low. Still a little loud. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved and liberate in strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I thought that'd be pretty good for the 4th of July. You know, with all the craziness that's going on in politics and all like that, you have to admit, what we call the crazy other side, they love this country. The crazy on this side, we love this country. You know, that's the one that binds us all together. All right. I'm going to enjoy the month of July because I feel like singing. And Jim had asked me to be Artist of the Month one time a while back, and I just told him I didn't have a song in me. And I'll say something about that on the third song, but I feel like I got a song in me. So back out under the tents in old church I was raised up in, we'd sing songs like this. Well, leave it there, oh, leave it there. Oh, take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. If you'll trust him through your doubt, oh, he'll surely bring you out. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. If the world from you withholds of its silver and its gold, and you have to get along on your fare, just remember in his word how he feeds the little bird, and take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Well, leave it there, oh, leave it there. Well, take your burdens to the Lord leave it there. If we trust Him through our doubt, He will surely lead us out. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. Now if your body suffers pain and your health you can't regain, and your soul is slowly sinking in despair, well, Jesus knows the pain you feel. He can save and He can heal. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Well, leave it there. Oh, leave it there. Well, take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Well, if we trust Him through our doubt, He will surely bring us out. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. All right, if Patrick, I need a sip of water. Well, he's got me some. I drank pH 9.5.
Sorry, my water wasn't good enough.
You know, I take some medicines that give me kind of cotton mouth a little bit sometimes. All right. Now, this last song I want to sing, back last time Jim had asked me to be Artist of the Month. You know, for some of you people that's on Facebook with me, I put everything out there. You know, a while back I put out there, I'm like, my God, where did the hair on my legs go? I look down and my legs, I'm hairless. And kids are like, I can't believe you said that, but I'm the same way. But I put my own stuff out there, but other people's stuff I'm real private with. And so Jim didn't know this, but he had texted me and asked me if I'd be Artist of the Month sometime a while back. And I told him, I said, Jim, I said, emotionally, I can't. I don't have a song in me. And what he didn't know was, and I explained it to him, that a couple of weeks before that, my grandson had OD'd. And I was just struggling with it. And I knew he was going to be in pretty bad shape for a long time. And it did mess him up. He had to go on disability. During that time, I already knew I'd need to get rid of all his furniture and put his house up for sale. And I just didn't have a song in me. And sometimes in our life, if we don't have a song in us, it's okay. You know, it's normal to be sad and hurt. That's right. It's normal. That's right. It's also great when you know that you come through it. You know. So I love this song right here. It's only one verse and one chorus. And it's a song that Jessie Coulter wrote as a poem to Waylon Jennings. And when she wrote it, she wadded it up and threw it in the trash. And she told Waylon about it and said, I was trying to write a poem. He went and got it out of the trash. He didn't add no words to it, didn't take no words away from it. He sung it just the way she had wrote it, that she thought was trash. And it became their signature song. But it's also very true for those of you that's here, those of you that's listening. We all are going to go through some stuff. And whether we call it storms or whatever, but by the grace of God, we'll make it through. Yes, sir. You know, by the grace of God, we'll make it through. But the poem she wrote was like this. Storms never last, do they, baby? Bad times all pass in the wind. Your hand in mine stills the thunder, 'cause you make the sun want to shine. Oh, I followed you down so many roads, Metron. We picked wildflowers and sung soft sad songs. But every road we took, God knows, our search was for the truth. And the storm brewing now, it won't last. 'Cause storms never last, do they, baby? Bad times all pass in the wind. Your hand in mine stills the thunder, 'cause you make the sun want to shine.
Yeah.
Amen.
Eddie Sellers. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, good stuff. That was good. Loved it. Woo. Oh, that last one got me. I thought he's not going to get me. He's not going to get me. And then, oh, he got me. You may be seated. That's good stuff, Eddie. Appreciate it. I think, there's a movement to make America the Beautiful the national anthem, and I think it makes more sense as a national anthem. I mean, we're all used to the Star Spangled Banner's about a particular battle in the War of 1812, maybe. America the Beautiful, there's just written by a gay person, by the way. Catherine Lee Bates, she and her wife lived together their entire adult life. Yep. Brought to you from the gay community. You're welcome. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, me. Tchaikovsky. All right. That was really good. This was really, really good. I wanted you to do about 5 more, but we got the whole month. All right. Let me tell you everything in sequence. All right. First of all, last week, what? That was amazing. Thank you all for going all the way out there. I know it was a little bit of a challenge to find it, but when Robert had texted me earlier in the week, he said, "How many do you think are going to come out so we'll know how much food to prepare?" I said, "Robert, that far out, I'm going to say 10, maybe 15. 15's a stretch. I would say expect about 10. We had, what'd you tell me, 40 that came out? And then when Ken's cousins and nephews, everybody told him that they were coming, I said, look, I don't want to be negative, but people tell me all the time they're coming that don't show, so don't get too excited about it. And his cousin, Lori, got up that morning. She said, she posted on Facebook, "I partied too much last night." I thought, well, that's her way of preparing Ken. Sure enough, they were all there on time. Couldn't believe. I mean, I was amazed. And so, look. That's the way God intended for us to have church. His place is amazing out there. It's amazing. If you knew what Robert had and what he lost and what he has rebuilt, all of that's paid for. We talked a long time Monday night. I said, I don't know. I honestly don't know how you do it. And I don't know if you read. He can't say much about it because the opposition side is watching his Facebook page. But you met the little girl Chloe. Both Wesley, Joe, and Chloe. If you knew what their alternative was, it's such a blessing that they have. And you see what sweet little girls there. But the elderly judge in Putnam County ruled in their favor amazingly. And I tell you, I don't like that side shot of me. So that's great. And I tell you what we're gonna do. We had planned on we were gonna do the Kidney Foundation this month. We're gonna do it in honor of Charles's mother-in-law who just transitioned. But I'm gonna push that back a month because we gave to the Bridge last last week while we were out there. I thought, while we're here, let's go ahead and do that. So what we normally give to another organization, we gave to them, and it was right on time for them, and it covered our food and all that kind of stuff. So we'll tell Aaron we'll do the Kidney Foundation's amazing. We did them once before, and that organization's really got their act together. It's amazing what they do for people. But we'll do that for August. So that was our outreach for July. Everybody's wanting to go again, so I told him, I said, let me look at the schedule, because I don't want to be gone from here too much, because if I'm gone too much, then people think we're not here all the time. So I like to stay consistently here, but I'm thinking about, I'd really like to see what the place is like in the fall. I bet it's beautiful out there. So I'm thinking maybe the Sunday before Thanksgiving. I don't even know what the date is, but I talked to him. I said, let me just go and put that out there. Maybe we'll do Thanksgiving with you all. And that would give us, 2 or 3 months before we drive out there again. But I was just, I was so pleased with it. Pastor Danny texted me. He said, I've been thinking about last Sunday all week and just wanted to say how great it was. I said, I know, I've been too. It was just, I knew it was going to be okay, but it really just exceeded expectations. And the weather, I was prepared for the weather to be sweltering, and it wasn't at all. It was just nice, and it was just great. So, that's our outreach of the month. Our Year of Living Your Best Life challenge for this month is be adventurous. So you define your... Wow. Well, you get the idea. I don't know if I would literally get in a hot air balloon, but that is a cool picture, Michelle. That's good. And the stuff you did during America the Beautiful, that was really, really good. I like that. That was very cool. Give it up for Michelle. She does a great job. All the time. All the time. That's why I try to get my outlines to them as early as possible, because I know she puts a lot of time in that, as does Avery with the shout-outs. I'm assuming you all look at them, but I was looking at it last night. I thought she really does a lot with this. She takes loaves and fish and multiplies it and makes it. It's a lot to do that every week. We've been doing it every week now for coming up on 3 years. Which, speaking of 3 years, first Sunday in August, what is that, the 6th? We're celebrating. As my ears hear my mouth say this, I'm incredulous. Our 3rd anniversary here. That's amazing. So what we're going to do, we've rented the big pavilion again at Piedmont Park where we were last year. John Scott's going to be with us again like he was last year. So that worked out. And I don't know who my artist will be for the rest of the month. But anyway, that's what we're planning for the 3rd anniversary. And we got plenty of time to tell you all about that. We'll do like we did before. Everybody just bring a covered dish. And if you've never been to one of our events in Piedmont Park, don't be intimidated by the parking. It's real easy, and it's fun. It's nice out there. We've never done anything that we didn't have great weather, and it was just great. So that's the plan for that. Let me see. What else do I need to tell you? I think that's everything. So are you ready for the word? All right. Is anybody running the Peachtree on Tuesday? Are you, Michelle? Are you? We weren't going to. Well, yeah. Yeah, I get it. We weren't going to do it because Ken's on call, but he's got somebody to watch for him Tuesday. So we've put the intention out there to get numbers. As of yet, they haven't manifested. What? That was us. That was a couple of years ago. Oh Lord, Michelle, where did you get all these pictures? All right, enough. So anyway, I believe that's what we're gonna. You gotta decide which intention you want. It occurred to me this week that I got 2 things going on with my studio, because initially I had said I wanted to have a studio so I could spend a year building up a body of work to do a thing next year on my birthday, like a big show. But then I also said I wanted to sell some of them, so I kind of got 2 things going on. It's like I want to sell them, I don't want to sell them. And I sold one to a guy in Dallas this week, and he loved it. He got it. Woo, mailing it though. I told him, I said, if you'll buy it for this price, I'll cover shipping and handling. Sweet Jesus in the morning. To FedEx it cost as much as he paid for the painting. And so I finally found a guy, I don't know how he did it, I don't want to ask, through UPS, did about half of that. And so I told him, I said, I'm just telling you why it's a little late getting there. He said, I feel bad that, I said, no, don't feel bad. That's the deal I offered you. It's just, Lord, I didn't know it cost that. Next time I'll just drive it. I'll just drive it to Dallas, be cheaper. Be cheaper to fly and just hand deliver it. Anyway, he loved it, and it came right on time. I texted him yesterday. I said, did you get your painting? He said, yes, it came last night, and it came right at the time I got some horrible news. And he said it was like, you can't imagine how timely it was, because it's that painting, Think on These Things. It's got like a lot of words. He said, I can't tell you how much I needed it right now. So that was cool. And but now if you want to buy one, let the Lord use you. Let him have his way. All right. We speak in this atmosphere and we say, let there be light. My title for the series for the month of July is this, and it's a phrase that we've used before, but I want to look at it again. Words are important. They have a certain energy on them. There's a certain way that words make me feel. There's a certain way that phrases affect me, that I'm attracted to them. And going next level, when something is next level, that speaks of progression, that speaks of evolution, that speaks of positive change. One thing that is absolutely non-changing in our life is change. I mean, things are always going to be changing. You have to decide how they're going to change. I was thinking about this morning. I don't want to get ahead of myself with the outline, but I hear a lot of people say something to this effect like, well, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And I understand what they're saying, but there's a danger in relying too much on what is meant to be. I think too much neutrality. I believe in going with the flow. I believe in acceptance. I think when you realize something in your life is inevitable, that you have to accept it, learn to flow with it. However, if everything is just, well, if it's meant to be, it'll happen, you may set yourself up for either other people hijacking your destiny or just nothing happening at all. So I do believe that intention is important, decision is important. I can't tell you how many people lately I've told this to, as I've told you. I used to say, follow the peace and make your decision, and now I nearly think just the opposite. It's just make a decision and the peace will follow that. I don't think God's as opinionated about minutia as we think he is. Other than, obviously, he cares for us. You know, Jesus said the hairs of your head are numbered. But as far as every little decision you make, I just think you decree a thing and it's established. I think it's nearly a Christian urban legend that there's this bigger plan working that we don't know anything about. I think you have to make the plan. Let us make people in our image and let them have dominion. And I think it's nearly it's a lazy theology just to say, if it's meant to happen, it's going to. I don't necessarily like the everything happens for a reason concept either. I like all things work together for good. I can accept that. But everything happens for a reason. Look, there's some things that happen that I don't like and I don't want to accept. I don't want to just say, oh, well, everything happens for a reason. Some things should never happen in the world. If you said everything happens for a reason and just left it at that, there'd be no activists. There'd be nobody trying to bring about change. Somebody's got to push back. We would have never had a civil rights movement if people had just said, well, you know, everything happens for a reason. No, some things aren't supposed to happen. People aren't supposed to just be gunned down in cold blood. And you know, so even if you're not personally pushing back on it, you should at least support other people's rights too. Because peace is important, neutrality is dangerous. Neutrality just means, you know, the time's getting away from me and I'm not making anything happen. And it's a constant, it's a dance. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you lead, sometimes destiny leads. Sometimes when you don't know what's going on, you have no alternative but to say, well, he's doing more than I can ask or think. There's other times where you have to say, I've got to drive a stake in the ground. Nothing's happening until I decide it. Most of the people, I've never actually sat down and written, and I'm sure it'd be easy to find online. Most of the people that Jesus healed, though, if memory serves, he asked them, what do you want? I don't know that he ever came to anybody and initiated the healing. I think, if they said, be merciful to me, son of David, he would say, well, what do you want? I mean, he'd ask a blind man, what do you want? We would think, well, the obvious answer would be to get his sight. Well, Jesus didn't assume that. Jesus said, well, what do you want? And life, I believe, is asking that every day, what do you want? That was a good teaching. I haven't even gotten my outline yet. What the what? The rest of the title is Healing Your Mind, Healing Your Heart, Healing Your Life. I'm kind of in this zone anyway. I had signed up for this. I thought it was like a lecture series. This Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I've quoted before, really like this guy a lot. He used to be a chiropractor, but he's very spiritual. And anyway, he's going to be in town, so I had signed up for it. And I didn't realize it's more like a meditation workshop because this guy actually teaches about how you can even change your DNA by the thoughts that you think. And he's had some really good success with people overcoming disease and things like that. And it's not cheap. I mean, it's, you get what you pay for, and I paid for it. I was going to let the ministry pay for it, but I thought, no, I want to pay for it, so I want to take it seriously. And I'm supposed to read a book before next weekend. Oh, Lord. I looked to see, there's a thing you can download, an audio book. I think I may do that one. But anyway, I was already kind of going to be in this zone anyway, because he talks a lot about healing your life by healing your thoughts. So I don't really preach sermons anymore. I like seasons of revelation. That's why I do monthly series, because once I put the words out there, this is what I'm going to teach on, then all month long it attracts things. You know what I mean? It's like things will happen that confirm it. Events will happen. You don't realize how much you're creating the events of your day, but you really are. I went by Christina's store Friday because I was taking the boys to see a movie, and then I found out she was back in town, and I said, you want to go with us? She said, yeah, I'm closing the shop early. I'm going to. So we all went. It was a really cool movie about how they did Sgt. Pepper's and how they deconstructed they're Beatle files like I am, so we really got into it. It was cool. But I said, how's your store doing? Because, starting a store, she got her own business loan. She did that herself. And she's been there half a year, and she's doing really, really well. And she said, but it's amazing. It's so simple. If I get up in the morning and say, I'm going to sell some stuff, I go in there and sell it. If I have a good attitude, she said, if I don't, I won't sell anything. She said, and she says, even if I pay somebody to stay in here for me, they don't sell stuff like I do. She said, when I'm here, I love it, and I talk to the people and everything. I said, you're a natural at it, and I'm so proud of her. But so a lot's going on. We're all in this zone. By this time next month, we're going to be healthier and better and smarter and stronger. We may even be younger. I can't promise you a full year, but I think we shaved some months off. I think we're going to be at least 4 or 5 months younger. Maybe a year's worth. Well, you know how they have those virtual reality tests that you can take? Every time I take one of those, I score like at least 10 years younger than I am chronologically. So if there's virtual age on computers, why can't there be? I told Ken this morning, I said, you look like a teenager today. Teenagers shave their heads. Now teenagers could be bald. I'm like, who's that young guy? I'm embarrassed to be seen with this young man. People think I'm a cougar. Anyway, all right. Enough of this foolishness. I want to show you the scripture. I may have referred to this since we've been here. I honestly don't remember, but I think it's an important scripture. This is Proverbs 18:9. And first, I'm going to read it to you in the New King James. And this is what he says. He says, he who is slothful in his work is a brother to him who is a great destroyer. Now, what's that got to do with going next level, healing your life? What he's saying here is you can say, well, I didn't do anything negative to my life. I just didn't do anything at all. And sometimes not doing anything at all is really doing something negative. Let me explain it to you this way. Those of you that own a home, if you own a home, there's something all the time. Even if it's a new house, there's something all the time. When we had that house in Covington, sweet Lord, that thing was built in 1900, and it was something all the time. And that house was on the historic registry, so every time we did something, we had to go meet with this council that met once every 6 months to see if we could get a new roof that we were paying for. It wasn't them, but they had to. I remember one time I put up a little picket fence out there, and I got a call from the Historical Society. Mr. Swilly, your picket fence has been met with approval for the Newton County Historical Society. And actually, for my records, there was a picket fence there once before. And I thought, well, what if it hadn't met with your approval? Would I have had to take it down? Like, what the what? That's why I live in a nice little loft now with a concierge. And I'm much happier. But that's the price you pay. If it's an apartment, you call somebody that it's their. If it's your house, and it's great to own a home, but if it's your house, that lawn is your responsibility. That plumbing is your responsibility. You got to get that termite letter. You got to, you know what I mean? If part of the roof blows off, I'm stressing y'all out. You're like, we know, we're homeowners. And you could say, well, I didn't do anything to destroy the house, but if you don't do anything to maintain it, you've seen those houses that stay vacant for a long time. It's incredible what happens like in a year's time. You think, well, vandals didn't come in to destroy it. What happened? It was just nobody was there to keep it up. Well, if that's true for just a house, how much more is that true for your life? If you don't stay on top of it, if you don't maintain it, if you don't maintain your health and your thoughts, and that's why it doesn't matter if I've taught something before and I'm going to teach it again, I have to do it. Scripture says we have the need to give the most earnest heed to the things that we have already heard, lest we forget them. I love fried chicken. I'm going to eat fried chicken again. I don't say, oh, I know what that's like. No, that's something I will eat again and again because I enjoy it. Well, maintenance means, yeah, I know to be positive. Sometimes I'll read somebody post something that I've said. Sometimes this is something I posted 2 years ago, and I think, wow, I'm glad you reposted that. I need to be reminded. I wrote A Year in the Now in 2000. I can't tell you how many times the 2000 version of me speaks to the 2017 version of me. It's amazing. It happened twice this week, how the me of 17 years ago was prophesying to the me of now. And I think, wow, who wrote that? That's why when you post it, you don't put my name, I put the link on there. You can buy. People, oh, this is amazing. Buy it. Amazon.com, JimSwillybooks.com. It's not a mystery. Somebody sat at a computer and wrote this stuff. Oh, that's so great. Where did you get it? From me. I wrote it. Spent a lot. Got a basement full of them at my parents' house. Need to move some more. It's in its fourth printing. And we sold 2 last week. I don't know who buys them, but about every Thursday, Avery said we sold 3 books. Somebody still. I don't even talk like that anymore, and people are still buying them. So like, Year in the Now, buy it. But now look at this. This is. I love the Amplified Bible. I love the original. They've revamped the Amplified, but I like the classic. This is what Proverbs 18:9 says in the Amplified. They really caught the meaning of what the writer was saying here. Look at this. He who is loose and slack in his work is brother to him who is a destroyer. And look at this. And he who does not use his endeavors to heal himself is brother to him who commits suicide. That is a strong statement. You could say, well, I would never put a gun to my head and kill myself. Well, if you're eating bad for yourself and doing things that you know are destroying your health, you're killing yourself at a much slower rate Oh, did I just get too? Oh, I went too deep there. Do you know what I mean? Like you think, well, I would never do something so drastic to end my life like that. You may be doing things right now that are detrimental to your health. That you don't think you're committing suicide, you're just doing it at a much slower pace. And it's so interesting to me that the people who interpreted this picked up on this. It's not just he who is slothful in his business is brother to him who's a destroyer, but he who does, look at that, he who does not use his endeavors to heal himself. Yes, go to the doctor. Yes, take your medicine. Yes, get the operation. But most importantly, make the decision to be well. I don't want to. I mean, it sounds oversimplified, but that's really what it is. Every day to decide, I'm going to feel good. I posted this, I don't know, a month or so ago. But sometimes when I go into Starbucks, they'll be playing something on the music. And it's amazing to me how many times when I'm standing there waiting for my coffee that I really get a message out of what they're playing. One day I walked in and they're playing James Brown, I feel good, na 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 na. I knew that I would. And he kept saying it over again, I feel good, na 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 na. I knew that I would. And we you know, my generation, we grew up with that song. So good, so good, I got a you, ow. Hardest working man in show business. But this is what you think, well, how would you get a message out of that? He says, I feel good because I knew that I would. In other words, it wasn't a fluke that I felt good. I planned it. I planned, well, tomorrow I'm going to feel good. Or I'm going to go on this vacation and I'm going to relax. You have to define your terms. You know, when you go out of town, you say, look, I'm going to be on the beach, and unless it's somebody real close to me that dropped dead, I'm going to need you not to call me. And even then, make sure I was really close to them. See if I maybe send some flowers later. Because I'm going to need, you were saying today that people are posting 9 days to my vacation. You know, people that only get X amount of days, those days are important. So when you say, I'm going to be on the beach, and I'm going to need nobody from the office emailing me. Some people say, well, I texted you and you didn't return my, right. That's when I check in and say, this is where we are, that means I'm in a movie right now. So unless it's an emergency, your question can wait. Some people are saying, what, I texted you last week. Last Sunday, there was no service out there. In the afternoon, I got everybody's text looking for them. Like, well, I'm not going to return it now. I couldn't return it then. I'm not going to help you now. You're home now. But you have to, I'm saying, if you're going to relax on your vacation, you have to plan to it. Relaxation doesn't just happen. You got to plan sometimes. You know why some people go on a cruise? You know what they really do? Because you can't get to them on the cruise. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, you're like, I'm out here in the middle of the ocean. I'd like to help. But, you know, somebody calls with some drama. You're like, I can't hear you. Well, back action. You heard them clear as a bell. But there's something psychological. For me personally, I don't enjoy that much about, like at night in cruises. I'd like to get on the land. But I understand the psychology of it. It's like I want to be away from where all the stuff is happening out here on, hopefully, calm ocean. But that happens every day. You decide you're going to have a good day. You decide. We were in this conversation that I had with Christina this week. She's talking about how her sales are nearly directly related to how she feels emotionally. I said, I totally understand that. I said, especially back in the day when I was mentoring a lot of like young ministers that had never preached before, and they would just spend hours and hours and hours in preparation, and I would tell they would want some feedback, like, this is all the hours I'm putting into it, and I would say, look, preparation is important, absolutely, and especially if it helps your confidence level. But can I tell you, this sounds superficial, or it may sound superficial, but you need to concentrate on you more than your material. Because if you spend, like if you're sleep deprived because you overstudied and you don't feel good, let me tell you, you want to feel like when you stand up in front of people, you look like you wanted to look, and you looked your best, you felt your best, whatever. Not because you're egocentric. It's because you want to not be distracted by those things. You want to feel good enough about yourself that you're not the message so much as you can just let it flow. So I would say, like, yeah, get your outline, but don't overstudy it, because when you overstudy it, you don't have any life in it. I remember when I was in college, I had to take a homiletics class. Homiletics is technically the art of preaching, and there's a way that you do it. You're supposed to have three. You're supposed to have a text, a subtext, 3 points, and then you have a conclusion. And there's a structure, and which actually I ended up using a lot. I remember at the time thinking I'm never going to use this, and I actually did. I mean, it was good, but I had been preaching since I was 13. So by the time I got to college, I had like 5 years under my belt. A lot of these guys had never preached at all, and so you were supposed to put together a 15-minute sermon, and they videotaped you, and then the rest of us would critique it. Some guys left the ministry after the criticism. But I would see some of these guys, I knew they had prepared, and they would get up and say all of their stuff in like 3 minutes. And you were supposed to fill up the time, and the camera kept running, and the professor would be like, keep going, and they just look in the camera, covering those points again. And I would think I could get up there and, what do you need, 5 minutes? You need an hour? You need 2 hours? You need 30 seconds? What? Just tell me how much I can fill up some time. That's why early on I learned I memorized a lot of scripture because it came in handy to know to quote it. When I used to do TBN and I'd sing a track and the guy in the control booth didn't have my right song, or the track wouldn't play, and you're on live television and there's a red light looking at you, and they're like, do something while they're trying to fix it. You got to be able to look in that camera and say, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also. I mean, I can't tell how many people came to the church over the years because they saw, wow, I saw you in a pinch. You still came up with something to say. I know, I've been doing it a long time. But you got to, like for me personally, during the week, if something happens that's really good, I'll just kind of make a mental note of it, because if I don't talk about it on Sunday, I'll talk about it at some point, because we're all writing our own gospel, and each of us have our own little anecdotes that happen. We had a really great day yesterday. It was with Ken's kids and grandkids. It was his youngest son's Brandon's birthday, so he and his girlfriend came down. We took them Ken took us to lunch, and had a great time with them. And then his older son, Nathan, and Christina and Addie came. Yeah, that was us. And this place, Top Golf, where you can go in and golf till 2 o'clock in the morning, and they did. But they came and dropped Addie off with us. His ex-wife had Emily, the younger one. But it was fun. I hadn't been with a toddler in a while. We had her at Centennial Park, where they have the dancing waters, and she was wanting to get in it, and we didn't want her to get wet. And at a certain point, I had already slipped once because it was wet on the pavement. She tore off for that water. She was going for it, and I saw Ken take off after. I was like, "Please don't fall, please don't fall." And I just remembered, like, "Ooh, look." She was cute. I probably got 3 or 4 things for sermon materials just spending the evening with her. Sometimes she calls me Papa Jim. Sometimes the last time it was Jimmy. Last night I was Jim. And I was sitting in the chair. We were watching Finding Nemo, and we got back to the loft, and he was sitting on the couch with her. I was online, and I kept hearing say, Jim. I said, "Are you talking to me?" She goes, "I love you, Jim." I'm like, but I just little things I was making mental notes of, like, well, this is a cool day. When my kids were growing up, if they ever did something funny or embarrassing, they would say, "Dad, please don't talk about this in your sermon." I would say, "Do you know how many times I have to preach in a week? Anything that happens is fair game. Anything that happens in this house that I'm paying for if you can work it out in therapy later, but if it makes my point, and it's especially if it's funny, I'm telling it. Anyway, let me show you this quote about going next level. I like this. This guy's motivational speaker says, getting to the next level always requires ending something, leaving it behind, and moving on. Growth demands that we move on. Without the ability to end things, people stay stuck, never becoming who they are meant to be, never accomplishing all that their talents and abilities should afford them. Now, when you think about how do I heal my heart, heal my mind, heal my life? Well, there are certain things that you outgrow. I'm human. I can get my feelings hurt like anybody. But I also know there's a time when it's too much hassle to maintain a hurt. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know what? I've hurt long enough about this. I don't care anymore. This is stupid. I don't want to think about it. I'm going to have to move on. And if you keep waiting for this apology that's never going to come, you're wasting your time. Sometimes you just have to lay something down. Some destructive thought, self-sabotaging thought, something that you constantly say about yourself that sort of tears yourself down. At a certain point, you have to say, I'm never going to go next level till I stop doing this. You don't have to tell somebody what's wrong with the way you look. If somebody says you look nice today, you don't have to tell them that you gained 10 pounds last week. If they didn't notice it, then just don't say nothing. I hate when people argue with you. You look good. Oh, I do not. I'm fat as a pig. Like, well, now that I look at you, I was thinking you look good, but in this light, yeah, you could drop a few. If they say it looks good, just say thank you and move on. It's crazy. I don't know why this happens, but I've actually gained weight before, which after a certain age, it requires some maintenance. I don't want to say it's difficult. I'm just saying you got to stay on it, Jesus. And somebody, I don't know if somebody was trying to hack me or whatever, but somebody was sending emails under my name to Ken about weight loss. I don't know how they did it. Did anybody else get one? I guess the problem was fixed, but he texted me one day and said, did you send me this? It was like, there's some things I've been wanting to talk to you about. I said, no, I didn't send you that. Like, what are you doing? So now, if he orders a dessert, I'm like, I'm going to send you an email tomorrow. You have to, there's at a certain point you have to say, I'm just not going to eat this anymore. It's not worth it. You know what's really encouraging to me? I see people, some of you in here, I won't say your names, but people that smoked for years and years and years that quit smoking. That's really encouraging. And you see that somebody could have a destructive habit that many years, because a lot of people, believe me, I've been on deathbeds with lots of people that they're like, I ain't never quit. And I'm like, I know, it's clear that you're, but your brother smoked since he was a teenager. I would have never thought he would have laid it down. And sure enough, he did. That was, 2 years ago? And what that says to me is nothing has to last forever. I meet people that ate horribly for years that now say, I can't really eat like that now. And I don't want, it's not worth it. Anyway, that's not just true for health issues. That's just true for just wrong thoughts that you maintain. Some of you that know me and know my story well will understand what I mean by this. But I was, Alec Baldwin does this podcast called Here's the Thing, and he interviews people the kind of people I'm interested in hearing, and I love good interviews. So I've been listening to his stuff for the last couple of weeks. Just when I get in the car, I'll play one of the podcasts, and I was listening to a interview he did with Jerry Seinfeld. And Seinfeld, he asked him, he said, why? He said, you just seem like really happy and, like you don't seem tormented like a lot of comedians or whatever. And he said, yeah, I am. I mean, I really enjoy my life. He's just incredibly centered. But he said this, he said, what was your family life like? He said, well, my dad left home when he was like 11 years old and really never had a family. And whatever the situation was, they had a very unconditional family. And he said, it just didn't matter. He said, my dad never told me he loved me, never told me he's proud of me, never threw a ball at me. I don't care, it didn't matter. And you could tell he was telling the truth. And when I heard that, I thought, that's really healthy to be able to say something like that. Like, yeah, it's not worth being. And you could tell he was not being dismissive of it. He was saying, I was just trying to get out of there as soon as possible, and they were trying to get me out, and we're like, okay, good, thanks. I thought I know that's kind of like a New York mentality, maybe, where he grew up, but I thought that's kind of healthy. Just like, yeah, my family's dysfunctional and I don't care. Like, oh, okay, well, that's different for all the people that have spent years in counseling in a fetal position because Daddy didn't tell you he loved you. Like, so I thought, but it's interesting how sometimes somebody will say something that you think, I like the energy on that. I think I'm going to adopt that into I like the way that felt. Because we've all got sad tales. We've got things that didn't happen in our childhood like we would like for them to. You can't go back. So at some point you have to say, I'll fix what I can. I'm not against therapy, but let me tell you, no matter how many times you dig that thing up, it's still going to be what it is. I mean, you can try to rethink it, I guess. But if it was a horrible thing that happened, it's a horrible thing that happened. It just is. And there's no, like, if you lost your parents at an early age, that stinks. That's horrible. There's not enough something in the world to take that away. So you have to say, well, that was part of my reality. And I have, when I've been able to counsel with several people lately, and I do think this is true if you are a parent, if there were certain things you didn't get in your own life from your parents, there's a way that you can, it's an abstract idea, but you can parent your own inner child by not passing on something to your kids, but changing it. Like, well, I'm going to break that. I'm not going to pass that on to my kids. And in some way, because everything's connected, it's healing me. I'm healing myself by being a better parent to my kids than my parents were to me. And it changes the focus of you being mad at people who probably were doing the best they could with what they had, with what they had, what their generation or whatever. That's the best they could do. And there was a woman I used to counsel with that she just couldn't get past the fact that her dad never told her he loved her. And it was huge. I mean, every time we counseled, that was the focal point. So one day she came and she said, I've decided, he's very old and he's not going to be with us much longer. I've got to hear him say it. And she said, I'm just going to go confront him. And I said, well, if you think it's what you should do. So she goes and says, you've never told me you love me. And he said, well, of course I love you. She said, when he said it, I realized, oh, he loves me. He's just not verbal. And I've wasted a lot of time. Like, remember, I know it's politically incorrect, but remember when in Gone with the Wind when Melanie died and Ashley was all upset and Scarlett has this epiphany. She goes, you mean you really have been in love with Melanie all these years? And so I've just been believing in something that never existed. I'm like, yeah, you idiot. You got Clark Gable in bed with you and you're lusting after Leslie Howard? I could have told you that. You already had Rhett flippin' Butler. What is wrong with you, girl? And just when she has this, oh, you mean you weren't in love with me? Like, duh. You think? Sorry, I take the movies very seriously. The characters in movies are very real to me, just so you know. All right, let me show you this. I like this quote by this woman. She says a lot of good things. Every moment of this experience we call a physical life is determined by the choices you make in your thoughts, intentions, and actions. Thus, when you choose to experience a thought, image, or activity from a place of loving, joyful, and compassionate intentions for yourself and others, you have the power to weave a lovely fabric that heals your mind, body, and soul. when you choose differently, the fabric you weave may contribute to an experience of suffering and pain in the form of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual anguish. The choice is always yours. Let me connect that with something that Eddie said today before one of his songs. We talked about his grandson, and he says sometimes it's normal to be sad. He's exactly right about that. It would be bizarre for something like that to happen to someone that you love and you not feel it. I want to make sure, as much as I'm about the positive and all that kind of stuff, I don't want you to ever think I'm telling you to be in denial. I think denial is weird and unhealthy. But he also said, you know that you will get through it. It's like Jesus saying, I will be in the heart of the earth for 3 days, but I'll be back. I believe you can prophesy your own resurrection. But in the meantime, like even when somebody says to me, oh, I've never been depressed a day in my life, I think, well, are you like a sociopath or something? Like, that's kind of bizarre. Have you not ever been through anything? I mean, I don't think I suffer from depression, but I've been depressed before, and in times where I thought it was appropriate. I never like these funerals where you go to it and people are like, we're not going to shed a tear because she's on streets of glory. And you're like, the guy's mother died. Would you let him cry a little bit? Like, we're not saying we don't believe in the afterlife, but Jesus knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead and still wept when he saw him and saw that he was dead. So Ecclesiastes says there's a time to weep and a time to laugh, and so that's appropriate balance. What this is talking about is choosing what you're going to dwell on. That's what makes up your life. Your life is made up of lots of thoughts, lots of energies, lots of vibrations. I'm going through a time. I'm watching. My mom and I are both watching our words about my dad, but he's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it's progressing. I mean, it just is. I mean, I spent time with him this week in a neurologist, getting another MRI to kind of see what it is and what it isn't. And it's very sobering. And some of you have seen your parents go through it. It's very sobering. It makes you think about your own life, and it just is. And he wouldn't want me saying even this much, so I'm not going to say much more. But I would be lying if I said there haven't been some days recently that I had to really work through some stuff. And it doesn't mean that I'm negative. It means that, wow, this is a rite of passage, that I have reached the age that I'm dealing with this now. And I don't know what the next thing is. But the good news is when I call and they've had a good day, or the meds are working or whatever, then I'm like, okay, well, good. Well, I'm gonna enjoy my day, and I'm not gonna feel guilty about it. And I'm here if you need me. But yeah, you do feel some stuff, and it would be monstrous of me to say I don't feel anything. Of course I do. I would never want a man like him to experience something like that, and he sure wouldn't want to either. So we're having to. It's a new normal for us, and we're having to figure out, well, what's the. You wouldn't know, like when he was here the other day, his verbal skills are good because he preached for 60 years, but Christina sat with him and he didn't know who she was. So it's like that's the reality that we're dealing with, and it just is what it is. I'm not trying to uncover him. I'm just saying that is a reality in my life right now. That as an only child, I mean, believe me, I feel the weight of it, and there's nothing to do about it. I mean, it is what it is. I knew that some of you have already been through it. So what does that mean? That means I'm still, if I can get a number, I'm going to run the Peachtree on Tuesday, and we're going to have a great 4th of July, and today's a great day, and I'm still funny, and I'm still me, and whatever. Nothing is either or in your life. Do you know what I mean? It's all a little bit of everything. And anybody who says it's not, they're either lying or they're out of touch with reality. Nothing's ever all that bad, and nothing's ever all that wonderful. It just is what it is. And there's stuff that you deal with, and you look for. Paul said, think on these things. He didn't say the other things didn't exist. He says, think on these things. As I've told you before, I'm a news junkie. Oh my God, I watch way too much news. And I can tell when I'm like, I've got to turn this off. I've heard them tell the same news story 5 times in a row 5 different commentators have basically said the same thing, and there's nothing I can do to fix. My sense of responsibility feels like, well, I need to know what's going on so I can help fix it. Well, some things you can't fix. They just are what they are. So you have to say, all right, I want to be aware. I want to know what's going on. But even last Sunday when Robert sang, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. That song, to me, that song's a hymn. There's a holiness to that song. Because, yes, I know there was a shooting in Little Rock last night. I mean, there's every day when you turn on the news, you're like, dear God, would people stop shooting each other? Like, what the heck? And then you have to say, all right, I'm going to choose to see the world that I want to live in. And it requires some effort. But what this is saying is whatever part of consciousness is going to collapse into your reality, it has to be filtered through what thoughts you're going to let in. You're the gatekeeper over your life. You're the gatekeeper over every day of your life. You have to decide. Sometimes you have to weed some people out. You have to not accept some things. Say, look, don't take this personally, but you stress me out. And I'll talk to you if I have to, but I don't really want to. Do you know what I mean? I mean, do you all know what I'm talking about? And there's people in your life that you're going to have to talk to because they're part of your world. But you're like, you need to prepare. When you see that name come up on that caller ID, you're like, oh, Jesus, you got to help me. I'm going to need some grace. And, go ahead and be the thermostat, not the thermometer, Sorry I missed your call. There's other people, every time you see that name come, you're like, oh, this will be good. This is going to be good. Because every time you talk, they got something funny to tell you, or something. They got something positive. And if it's bad news, it's still a positive spin on bad news. All right. This one, I don't think I've ever used this guy before, but I like his quote. He says, this is cool. All minds are joined, therefore all healing is self-healing. Our inner peace will of itself pass to others once we accept it for ourselves. Let me tell you something that happened to me just this week that I experienced this. But I didn't think he was going to post anything about it on his Facebook page, but Robert sent me a long message, personal message, to tell me how their court date went. Sometimes I don't click on his stuff just because I don't want my phone to buzz all day with all the people that are, you know what I mean? It's like, I'd rather just, I got you. I'm glad. But when he told me, he wrote me, because they grilled him in this court, and they asked him like really hard questions, personal questions. I'm not telling you anything Robert hasn't told you himself, but he's had some bad things happen in his life. And they knew all about it, and he was, when it's a custody or adoption case, everything's on the table. And they put it all, even question his credentials for ministry or whatever. And he said the fact that when they went in, I hope it's okay to tell this, but the judge said, we're not going to hear we're just going to send this little girl to DFACS. And unless everybody has to agree. And he said, no, I don't agree. I want a hearing. And because he did that, the judge, when he heard everything, and this is an older conservative judge in Putnam County, who says, not only are you a same-sex couple, you're an unconventional same-sex couple because there's a great age difference with the two of them. He said, but I don't see, he actually used the word I'm boxed in. He said, I don't see any way but not to give you, I have to give you custody for adoption. And he said his attorney was blown away. He said, I've never seen anything like this happen. What's that got to do with this? I immediately felt better when he told me that. It had nothing to do with me. I'm not in an adoption case. But I texted him back. I said, Robert, this gives me so much hope. I know this isn't about me, but that just made my day because I'm so happy for you. And there's so much that it says. It says so many things about, with all the negative in the world, there are some things that are getting better. And with me knowing the story of this little girl, I know she's going to be better off with you. And it immediately, I wasn't feeling all that great physically, and I immediately felt better just by reading this good news. Now, what's that got to do with my personal health? I don't know how to explain that. But good news is contagious. And when somebody tells you something really good, even if it has nothing to do with you, somehow it translates to, that just made me feel better. I don't know why. Because I'm not, believe me, we loved having Addie last night, but we ain't going to be we don't even want a dog. You heard me? We're a little more homebound these days because of our parents, but we're vagabonds at heart. We're like, hey, what time can you get off work? I just made a reservation in Chattanooga. I mean, that's us. We like to get in that car and go. Nothing against y'all dog lovers, but you dog lovers, you can't just get in the car and go unless you got a small dog. One of the first things I asked him, I said, you got a dog? He said, why? I said, because I like to go. I like to go. I already raised kids. I got grandkids. I love them. I like to just leave. No, I can leave my house for days, and it don't matter. Nothing needs to be watered. I don't even have a plant. That thing is maintenance free. People say, it's kind of small. I like it small because I don't need you to give me anything else. I have more than I will ever need for the rest of my life. I don't have any place to put the stuff I got now. If you want to give me something, give me cash or write me a check. I can always use that. Don't give me more stuff to put on shelves. I don't have any counter space. And I like it that way. Because if I had a bunch of rooms, I'm not a pack rat, but I know I would fill them up. Now, if that's what you want, more power to you. I'm not telling you, I'm saying for me. As for me and my house. I like to keep that car gassed up. Because you don't know. Like I said, we're in a different time right now. But typically, ain't no flies on me, Jesus. That was going to be the name of my series this month, but I thought better of it. All right. Here's another quote I want to share with you. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Let me tell you, like, if you want to lose weight, stop looking at yourself in the mirror and saying how much you hate your fat body. Because, I mean, that will work for a little while. You'll lose a little weight, but you'll gain it back. You've got to love yourself. You've got to just love being healthy. You've got to just want the best for your, to eat right. Not to hate, I hate the way I look. That doesn't work. I don't know if you ever saw What the Bleep Do We Know, but there's a scene in there. Marlee Matlin is in it, the deaf actress. And they show that she does this thing where about body image, and this sounds crazy, but in the thing, she looks in the mirror and she starts writing on her body, I am beautiful, I am whatever. And it was a whole thing about how you change the way that you look at it. Because when you accept who you are as being beautiful, then other people see you that way. Because you're in a day, you're giving people 1,000 subliminal messages of how to see you. You're either telling them or just whatever. But you have to. I'm all for working out. I need to get back into it myself. But do it not because you're driven, but because you love yourself and you wanna live long and you want to be healthy. Not because you're just competing with somebody. If you're going to compete with who you were yesterday, but always move it in a positive direction. And the criticizing, that's why when people say, if you don't preach against sin, they're going to be sinning. Let me tell you something. I've been in a church all my life. Preaching against sin does not keep people from sinning. It makes people go covert and makes them feel guilty. It does not change behavior. And believe me, I could cite you examples of hellfire and brimstone preachers that lead lives that would shock you. And the people in their churches are, beaten down all the time. And everybody acts like there's this standard of perfection, but it doesn't exist. Makes them feel guilty. Now, it can squeeze a lot more money out of people. We need to buy a couple of things for Metron that we've got the money for, but I would like the money to come in. You know, we just need to bump it up a little bit for next month. So I thought about bringing some hellfire and brimstone. I thought I got to do something into the world. Something I need to. Avery told me this week, it's not bad. It's just we just need to. We're not where we should be. And I said, I'm bringing the rapture back. Don't make me bring the wrath of God in here. Because I do believe we're creating a different reality. Like even last week, Robert asked me, he said, what do we do about offering? He said, do you take an offering? I said, no, my people give online, and they've already done it. That felt so good to say that, you know? Because I want you to give because you love this and you believe in it. And even if we don't know what the next step is going to be until that next thing happens, this is really awesome. And whatever that will be, if there is something else, that will be awesome. Even on days where a lot of people are gone like they are today for 4th of July, I love this theater needs to be redone. It needs a facelift. But this is my favorite theater. Are you kidding me? My job is getting up on. I mean, I do other stuff during the week, but on Sundays I get to drive to my favorite theater in my favorite part of my favorite city and do what I love to do. And y'all drive over here and help me do it. What? That's pretty cool. I feel much more successful now than I did 10 years ago, believe it or not. I really do, because I do what I want to do. I live where I want to live. It's not. That's why I don't have a retirement plan. Because I think, well, why would I retire? I like doing this as long as a couple of y'all are going to drive down here and see if I got anything left to say. I'm probably, why not? I got free time to do the other stuff that I want to do. I can show up on Sundays. What? I could still marry and bury people. I got what, 7 weddings on my schedule right now. So I mean, you know, I do stuff during the week. I've seen some of y'all in the emergency room. So I mean, I know where the hospitals are. But I'm not overworked. I'm not. And at this point in my life, I've worked hard. I'm 45 years into my career. I ought to be having a little free time. But everything I do during the week, it all comes back here. It's like going to a big cosmic grocery store and you get produce and you get bread and you get all kind of stuff and you put it together and you serve up this meal. It's good. And then finally, this is, I'm so taken with the story of the woman with the issue of blood in Mark chapter 4. I've taught it for so many different reasons. It's a great story about female empowerment. It's an amazing story about being out of the box theologically. Because like I've taught you before, she didn't have any scriptural precedent to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. It was something she made up. If I can touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. That's huge. That's saying you don't go by the book, you go by the word that's written on your heart. That's where the life is. And this woman had this, it was a female problem she'd had for 12 years. And you have to understand, this wasn't just a gynecological problem. It was a problem with a stigma. If you go back and read, you know, these patriarchal guys that wrote the Old Testament, they really had issues with the physicality of women. They did. I mean, they have harems. But, you know, Moses, when people want to tell me what Moses said, you know what Moses said is abomination. Really? Does your wife sleep in the garage several days a month? Because according to Moses, you shouldn't even let her stay in the house during her time. How insulting is that? What? If I were a woman back then, I'd be like, hell no, you're not going to kick me out of this house that I'm cleaning and feeding everybody. And now, because you're a little bit, you're going to put me outside the camp. You don't want to play the Moses card, believe me. But so this, when it says in the scriptures she came behind him in the press, that meant that it wasn't a stigma as extreme as like leprosy, but it was enough that, well, some of you of a certain age, girls might have been told you're going to get the curse. Well, that's what they called. This woman was cursed. So that it's like people didn't even want her to get to Jesus. I mean, she had to really. This is an amazing story. It's a story of courage and of creativity and whatever. But this is what I want to point out to it from this. And you know Jesus said this before, but especially to her, because this is what he says, and this is, I'm using it out of the Phillips translation. This is after, remember she touched the hem of his garment, he felt virtue go out of him. So it would be easy for us to say, oh, well, the hem of his garment did heal her. And yet, that's not what he said. He didn't say, oh, it's a good thing that you touched me. Because something did happen. Remember he said, who touched me? And the disciples said, what do you mean? Everybody's touching. He said, no, I felt something go out of me. I felt virtue go out of me. So something happened. It wasn't just a placebo. However, look what he says. He said to her daughter, which right there, that was his public affirmation of letting everyone know, I don't think of her as unclean. I'm calling her daughter. So just by that, he's verbally affirming her in front of her peers. But then he says, it is your faith that has healed you. That's amazing. Because she said, if I can touch the hem of his garment, I'll be well. That's fine that you did that. Apparently it was something that you needed. But it was your faith. It was your faith, if nothing else, that got you up here to press through this crowd of people that don't necessarily want you to connect with me, that you got here anyway. But he says, it is your faith that has healed you. Go home in peace and be free from your trouble. Now, you're all mature enough to understand what I mean by this. But like in the story of the Wizard of Oz, Wizard of Oz is such a parable. It nearly should be in the Bible. It's such an important thing. And at the end of it, remember when the wizard gives them each a token? He gives the Tin Man a heart thing. He gives the Scarecrow a decree or whatever. But if you go back and look at their journey, when they didn't know what to do, the Scarecrow was always the one that had the ideas. He didn't realize it. The Tin Man didn't think he had a heart, but he's the one. Remember when he saw that Dorothy was in the witch's castle? He said, oh, it breaks my heart to see that she's in there. And the Cowardly Lion was the one that actually, he might have been spooked a little bit, but he would get past it and he would go press in. He was the one that actually did show the courage. They didn't realize that about themselves. You know what the wizard was saying to them? It is your faith that has made you whole. And this whole time they're saying, if I can get to the wizard, he'll give me what I need. Now, no disrespect to Jesus. I'm not saying Jesus was a fake man behind a curtain like the wizard was. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he says to her, and now listen, Jesus didn't have any problem talking about, he could easily say, one greater than Abraham is here. So this wasn't him being self-effacing. Jesus, he could give himself credit when credit was due. But here he says, no, daughter, do you realize what, this isn't just healing her body, this is healing her self-esteem. Because he not only calls her daughter, but he says, you did this. I mean, if there is somebody that we're going to go stand before one day, if there's a literal person on a throne somewhere, is that what it's going to be when you say, you brought me through all these things, and he says back to you, Your faith did that. I mean, can you imagine the affirmation? Bishop, how can you believe that? Well, let me tell you why I believe it. Let us make people in our image and let them have dominion. It's called growing up. I loved all the stages. You know, we were talking about, we were dealing with, she's not in diapers last night, she's in pull-ups, so we're, that whole thing. I changed diapers, I did, I was a very hands-on dad. I love that my kids are grown now and can do their, I mean, I'm there if they need me. And even on Father's Day, Jared was still out of town, but the other ones took me out. And we were all talking about the similarities, and they all said to me, don't you realize you did this? Nothing against their moms, obviously. But they were saying, we're like you. We all live in your part of town. We think like you. Yes, they're like their moms, but they're like, you're the common, you're what we all have in common. It was very affirming to hear that. And that's what I want. I wouldn't want them to say, Dad, we just need you so much. No, I'm glad that, yes, I'm in them, but now they've taken it and done their own thing. That's what if there is such a thing as a heavenly father, a heavenly parent, heavenly mother, that's what she would want for all of us. Not to be so dependent on them. I know Jesus said, I'm the vine, you're the branch. Apart from me, you can do nothing. You know what that means to me? The DNA is already in you. For whatever is happening with my dad right now, the man I grew up with, 50-something years of ministry with no hint of scandal ever. I can't say that for everybody in my family. I can say that for my dad. Always work ethic, always showed up for church. When they were going through he might be going through terrible things. The church never knew it. He'd show up. He was a good man. He had integrity. He's a decent. That I don't have to go ask him about that. That's in me, and that's from him. I know the things that are from her. My artistic side, my creativity, whatever. I'm so much like her. It's crazy. I don't have to go and ask them everything. That's already deposited into me. So when Jesus said, I'm the vine, you're the branch, apart from me you can do nothing, he was saying, my nature is already in you. What he's saying is now go do something, make something happen. But I've probably taught this, it's probably safe to say I've referred to this more than any other gospel story, except for maybe the Roman centurion. I have talked about that a lot. But there's 2 or 3 out of the Gospels that are clearly my go-to stories. But this one, I don't know, as many times as I've taught it, this just went off inside me this week in a way that it never has before. Because she kept saying, it says she said within herself, if I could touch him, touch his clothes, it's that touch that will make me well. And Jesus turns it around and says, no, it wasn't. It was the faith that you manifested to get here and believe that this would make you well. But she could just as easily have said, if you spit on dirt and make mud, because that's what he did that once before. Was that a special miracle? No. You're the miracle. You're making it happen. And that doesn't take, let me tell you something. God's not petty. I love praise and worship, but I don't like the idea that there's a God that is so insecure he has to be told constantly how wonderful he is. Do you understand? There's a fine line there. Like, we all love compliments, but I don't want, if every Sunday I was making, anybody got something good to say about the preacher? Wouldn't that just be kind of like gross after a while? Like, once in a while, like have a birthday or something and y'all all say a good thing. You only do that about once a year. A little bit of that goes a long way. If I did that every Sunday, you'd be like, good God, how insecure are you that you got to get us to tell everybody how wonderful you are? We showed up today. That should tell you we're good with you. We don't have to just constantly say it. I'm here, ain't I? I'm all for the verbal stuff. Words are important. But actions really do. They say a lot. There's a lot of people that are just, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Look, the people that matter really are the ones that show up and just do it. They might not say as much. Some of y'all had one of those daddies that grew up in the Depression that he wouldn't even know how to form the words, I love you. It wasn't even in his vernacular. But there was always a roof over your head. That was his way of saying, I love you. And you can't expect him to have grown up in the 60s and be in touch with his feelings and his feminine side. That ain't ever going to happen. So take what you can get. And that's what I'm going to leave you with this today. We'll take it up. We'll explore a lot of this month. But I want to tell you, God is great, but it's your faith. It's your faith that did it. If you've made it this far, and He's the one that would tell you. It's not like He says, that's right, it was all me, you better recognize. That's not even the way God thinks. The God that I know says, you're empowered enough to become a reflection of the living God. And that if you, ooh, that was good. And that's the point. Why are we here? We're here to be God on the earth. That's what, I'm sorry that some people think that's too out there, but that's what I see. The God that I know, He's saying, I want you to be me. I want you to be like me. Why else? I'm trying to shut up. Why else would Jesus say, it's necessary that I go away? If I don't go away, the Spirit can't come. And it's that Spirit, Spirit doesn't have a face. And when you think of Holy Spirit, you don't think of a Jewish man with a beard and long hair and a robe, whatever. Jesus said, you've got to get that picture out of your mind. And yes, and that you're actually going to do something greater. I'm going to leave so that you can be me. Really is what He's saying. If I can really get deep for 1 second more, you say, well, what? All right, if we follow the Lucifer narrative, wasn't that why Lucifer got kicked out of heavens? Because he said, I'll ascend to the sides of the north and become like the Most High God? Well, first of all, Bible historians say that was probably talking about a literal king that lived at a certain time. However, it wasn't even necessary for him to say that. That was I shouldn't have opened this can of worms. When the serpent says to Eve, God knows if you eat this tree, you'll become like Him. Her answer should have been, we already are like Him. There's nothing. That was the point of the. That was the point of the two trees to begin with. Is that you don't even have to look at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You already are. Let us make man in our image. Let us make people in our image. Let them have dominion. So anytime you think something's lacking in you, that's the devil. The devil is the idea that you're not complete, that you're not enough. Give no place to the devil. Give no place to that thought of inadequacy. You already are all that because He made you that way. Because if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. If you've seen me, you've seen God. This was possibly the greatest sermon I ever preached. Let's all stand. I don't know for sure, but it's up there. It's up there in a top something. Brenda said it's up there with my Rudolph sermon. You got to have an anointing to get people crying on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's a powerful story. Something we can all relate to. Ooh, I'm feeling revelation in this picture show house. Good stuff. This is going to be a good month. Good month. Please remain standing if you'll hit that, and then I will speak a blessing over you before we go. I love this stuff.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy.
Easy peasy.
Simply text the amount you would like to give to 404-620-5044 and And now you can give anytime by texting this number. You will then receive a one-time registration form that links your phone number and opens your account at SimpleGive. Complete the form, and you will then receive a successful registration and donation page. For additional information on your account, visit bishandthenow.com and click the Support tab. Then, My Online Donation. When you contribute to Metron, you're also supporting the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment in Metron.
If you have a check, just make the JESM. And I really appreciate, obviously I love Danny and Gloria and Tawny and all of them, but Danny takes it seriously that he's back there to receive the checks because he's a giver. That's not a hypocritical stance. That's not a man standing back there acting like he is. I know for sure that he is. And I've never said this to him, but I get the feeling that when you hand him that check, he pronounces a blessing over you because he believes in this. And there's a positive energy there when you, I don't know, there's just something about having somebody there to receive it that practices it. If you have cash, pay it forward, go bless somebody. We're going very next level this month. A blessed 4th of July. Look, America is what it is, but man, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? And I love it, and I want to see it be okay, and I want people to stop fighting all the time, and I want people to love each other, and I'm just not going to give up that vision of it. I mean, that part of me that can, yes, I know they were Europeans, that when they said all men are created equal, they were thinking of white European men. But the fact is they put those words out there, and now it's everybody. And now they didn't realize they were prophesying that all means all. It means women. It means people of color. It means everybody. So bless their hearts. They did, in their limited time, they spoke a word that is a now word for us. And so celebrate. 4th of July is important. I mean, it ranks up there with Christmas as far as I'm concerned. I always go to watch the fireworks, all that. I want you to have a blessed day. If you're traveling, be safe. If you're not feeling well, be well. Think healthy thoughts. Speak healthy words. Be in healthy relationships. Love your job. Love your car. Love your work. Love your house. If you don't love it, at least be grateful for it until something better comes along. Be grateful for what you have now, and something even better will come. Just enjoy your July. Enjoy your summer. Health and life and peace and strength and blessing is yours, and you wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day the Lord has enabled me to make. I will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. Go in peace.